We're going to be discussing Halloween Ends. We all saw Halloween Ends. Halloween Ends is the third movie in the David Gordon Green Halloween trilogy here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then this one, this trilogy started in 2018, which it was just called Halloween, which I was a big fan of. I was a big fan of Halloween 2018. I think it was one of my favorite movies of the year in which it came out in 2018. So I really enjoyed it. Then came Halloween Kills, and I was not so much of a big fan of that movie. I thought that was pretty bad, and just a lot of dumb things that happened in the movie. The review, I believe, is up on our YouTube page, youtube.com, The Afternoon. You can go check it out. There we reviewed Halloween Kills. There's so many characters just doing so many stupid decisions in that movie that just really ruined that movie for me. And then here in Halloween Ends, which is a 4-year time jump here from the last Halloween movie. So we're going to be talking about, we're going to do a spoiler and then non-spoiler review. I mean, non-spoiler and then spoiler review. But we're also going to be spoiling right now the other Halloween movies, just in case you hadn't seen them, like Halloween Kills in the first one.
Which they recap them in the trailer, so I don't know where going to Halloween Ends without seeing either the 2018 one or Kills, but
yeah,
you do you, buddy.
Yeah. So if you remember at the end of Halloween Kills, Michael killed all the dumbass people that lived in Haddonfield. He killed most of the dumbass people, the mob that was chasing them and everything.
He especially fucked up that one lady that brought an iron to the riot.
Yeah. So yeah, and then he ended up killing Laurie's daughter, who's played by Judy Greer. And so now 4 years later, there's been no sighting of Michael Myers. Now you have Jamie Lee Curtis, who's back as Laurie Strode, who's got a granddaughter, Alice, who's living with her. Alice, who's a nurse. And it seems like now this is a new Laurie Strode. She's not the same woman she was you saw in 2018. She's not, trapped in her grief and trauma and pain. She's just like, hey, she's trying to even write a book. And it's like, I've moved on now. I'm better with my life. I want to put that behind me, and just start over again and try to begin to heal. And you see at the beginning of the movie, you see her with her granddaughter. Everything seems to be going pretty well. But we know that, obviously nothing stays silent, especially in Haddonfield, when Halloween is approaching. So yeah, and there were some things I did really enjoy about the movie. I think it's better than Kills. I'll get that right out of the way. I do think it's better than Kills. And I think there were some things they did that I thought were kind of bold and kind of interesting, and interesting themes and ideas, much like how I kind of thought with Halloween Kills. Just the execution was kind of poor. Here, I think the execution is kind of still a little poor, but it's so much just very, very messy, I would say, with this. So I'm going to go around and kind of get you guys' thoughts on it. Nick, what were kind of your thoughts on Halloween Ends?
Okay, so there's a very specific thing that I want to talk about, but I can't really get into it with spoilers. But I think this movie does what Rob Zombie tried to do with his Halloween series, but I think it does it way better. Especially when talking about, I'm really trying to not give what the movie's actually about, because first off, this barely qualifies as a slasher movie. It doesn't really come until towards the very end of it, and I think the thematic beats that Gordon Green and Danny McBride are swinging for with the ends, I think they land much better than they did in Halloween Kills. However, I do kind of agree that a lot of those elements didn't really gel together, and the film is kind of messy, especially in its second act.
Okay. Ashley, what can some of your thoughts?
So we're trying to avoid spoilers for now, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I did like Kills quite a bit. I think it was a very interesting film, and much like we were talking about with She-Hulk, I like that Kills was such a wild swing. We've gotten like 10 Halloween movies at this point that have all given us a variation of the same thing. And honestly, one of the ultimate versions of that, I think, was the 2018 film. You're not going to get much better than the just straight up, here's our serial killer, and, he's just cutting through people in town, and it's like a straight up, serial killer story. And so I really liked the swing that Kills told. I thought it was a really interesting story about how you can have a community that is haunted and terrorized by trauma that they have not interpersonally felt, but as a community they still experience because it was just like
Mhm.
visited upon the whole, and they internalize that and turn that into a rational fear. I thought it was a really interesting story that they did. Was it maybe a little clunky in places? Sure, but I appreciated that they were doing something that was much larger than what we had seen before. And same thing for Halloween Ends. Um, Much like with Kills, my expectations for going to this film was like, show me something other than what I am expecting. That was
Mhm.
the only thing I want from this movie. And sure enough, I got into this movie and I was not expecting what ends turned out to be. Um, and I consider that a good thing. Ultimately, I think I did like the movie. I think it was telling a very interesting story. I'm quite honestly just having seen it last night, I'm still trying to process it. I just started like
Mhm.
composing some of my thoughts this morning. I was like, I can't review this yet. I need to sleep on it, think about it. It's a movie that does have a lot on its mind. It has things it wants to
Mhm.
say. We can debate whether or not it was successful at what it was trying to say, but I think it tells a very interesting story. And I think the people who are bounced off of Kills and will no doubt bounce off of Ends, because I think it has a lot of the same barriers to entry that a lot of people have, especially if you're like approach it from like a fandom perspective of, I
Mhm.
know what a Michael Myers movie is and I demand it be that. I think if it were called just like Haddonfield Stories, then people would probably be a little bit more kind of generous to it. But I think it's definitely a movie that like in 10 years we're going to revisit and go, wow, these like three Gordon Green Halloween movies that he made were really swinging for the fences and got there way more than they fell short. And we will have like a massive newfound appreciation for this really interesting and unique trilogy of films that he made.
Mm, nice. Hunter.
Yeah, so I hadn't seen Halloween Kills until today. So I actually
Mhm.
watched Kills today, and then I watched Ends right afterwards. I think the 2018 Halloween film, bit of a hot take. I think it's the best Halloween film that's been made. I think it is. It's exactly what I wanted from a Halloween film. Like I remember leaving the theater and actually being kind of amazed, like holy shit, like you keep like wow, bravo, um,
Mhm.
and just being just kind of in awe of how great it was. And then you get to Halloween Kills, and it's definitely trying to like say something about like mob mentality and somewhat like law
Mhm.
enforcement, but it just loses the thread so much, and they sideline Lori for so much of the movie. I was like, I don't really care about everyone else. I don't care about these random white people putting themselves in extremely dumb situations to get killed, and then me going, yeah, you kind of deserve to get killed. Like, why, why are you, like, why are you leave? Why can't you shoot a gun? Why are you turning your gun sideways? Like this is dumb shit. Why I just like y'all, come on. And then I get to ends, and the opening scene. I remember going, oh crap. Because once I saw the opening scene, I went, oh, I think they're going to do this thing. And if
Mhm.
you set up this thing in the 2018 movie, I think you could actually pull it off. But the problem
Mhm.
is they did what they did in Kills, which bothered the fuck out of me, which is that they sidelined Lori for so much of it. So by the time she's actually in the movie, I went, oh well, we're kind of playing catch up now. And what they do with her daughter or her granddaughter, pardon me, I just went, it's like really, this is the best we had. Um, Also, the fact they killed Judy Greer. at the end of Kills with like 2 minutes left. It's so shitty. It's so goddamn dumb. I've heard people try to defend it. It bothers me to no end. And when it got to the end of this movie, yeah, that's fine. I was not a fan. And this is, you know what, this reminded me of when I left the theater, Rise of Skywalker, where people were like,
whoa.
like, do I need to see this? It's like, look, if you're a Halloween fan, sure, like, you know, clearly this won't end. Like, Blumhouse will see the receipts and go, ends. What are you talking about?
No, Jason Blum is looking at Mechanic Hot and just like, we're done when I say we're done.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, did we mention that we have the time stone and we're rewinding this shit? Like, yeah, they will find any fucking excuse to keep this shit going.
Reboot it, redo it.
Wait, what'd you say, Ashley? Say?
Like this series has maintained continuity over the years.
I mean, fair.
That is true.
One of the things that's kind of unique to Halloween as a franchise is that it has these like really segregated little trilogies throughout its entire runtime. Like you can take, was it 6, 7, and 8, and they make their own little unique storyline. And outside of that, those 3 movies make no fucking sense at all. And it's the same sort of thing with the David Gordon Green movies. It's like these movies, like following the first movie, are their own thing. And they'll no doubt go on and do other Halloween movies in the same sense that we won't stop making Batman movies until forever. And when they do, they're just going to move on to a completely different take. It's like, oh, new Halloween timeline, new Michael Myers stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like, I was just sad. I'm gonna be honest. I was just really bummed when I finished this. I was like, you know, the last 15 minutes are like, it's kind of like when I watched Terminator Salvation. I was like, man, I'm kind of just trugging through this. And then I got the last 15 minutes. It's like, oh, here you go. And then it's like, well, where are you going? And then it just ends. And Jamie Lee Curtis deserves better. Honestly, she deserves better for what she's meant to horror and what she's meant to this franchise, and I just kind of left feeling empty. So.
Interesting. So you know, I will say, you know, one of my big issues with Halloween Kills was like Hunter was talking about with Jamie Lee Curtis, where she was like in a hospital bed through 90% of the movie, and it's like, what the hell is this? This is one of your main stars, other than Michael Myers, is Jamie Lee Curtis, is Laurie Strode. Why do you have her just, you know, in a hospital bed throughout most of the movie? And then I think with this one, you have her kind of be a character again, where she kind of has a little bit, you know, more to do. And it's interesting to see, like, she's trying to really move on with her life, you know, and to try to move on with her life, but she's still confronted by all these people who still blame her, you know, for Michael Myers. It's like, you know, you brought him back, you brought that evil back, you riled him up, even though it wasn't her, it was those 2 dumbass podcasters and the Halloween. It wasn't even.
And I think those are kind of some of the beats that worked for me, especially because that has kind of been a through line through this trilogy, how trauma affects a community or how events like this do, and how people are so quick to lay blame where it really doesn't belong.
Yeah. And to Ashley's point, you know, I think there's a really unique, great trilogy here. You know what I mean? I can see it. It just, for me, it just doesn't work, really. I think the first one works. It's just these other 2 really, for me, don't work. I get the themes. I get the ideas that they're going for, trauma and pain, you know, in these different stages and how it affects the community. And you know, they kind of switch back and forth between, you know, kind of Michael Myers being, you know, he's evil incarnate, as they say. You know, he's the embodiment of evil, and, you know, and everything like that. And it's kind of all, you know, it's poisoning this town, almost like, I guess, you know, to kind of offer comparison. I was trying to think of another movie that kind of was doing that, was like It, with Pennywise. It's like he's kind of infecting this kind of main town with kind of his evil and everything. And you see a lot of, you know, asshole people in this town. And some of that is just typical horror stuff, because you got to set up shitty people so they can be killed later on.
Yeah,
and you know.
Which is which is one of my complaints because that is atypical for this trilogy, for this specific trilogy of David Gordon Green's Halloween, because every single death in the first film, even if it wasn't a great person like those podcasters, they were all like really well written, well developed characters, and I legitimately felt bad every time one of them got it. And even in kills, it's like, yes, these people are idiots, but they mean well. They're trying to like put this guy down, put down Michael Myers, so I can't even really be too mad at that. Here, most of these guys are fucking assholes.
Yeah.
I clapped. I was
Yeah.
rooting for Michael.
Yeah.
I need to get into
Which is-
spoiler territory to sort of talk about like there's
I was
two
rooting for-
sides of the thing that were different in ends, but I wanna hold off on that for now.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think is particularly about this take of the David Gordon Green movies is the best way to look at Michael Myers in these films is to view him as essentially a natural disaster. He is a hurricane, particularly in Kills. Um, he's just this hurricane that is like cutting a swath through town, and the people he kills are basically either the people that just happen to be in his way, they're in his path of destruction, and they don't get out of his way, or it is the people that are literally trying to like stop him, and they are the aggressors. And ultimately, all Evil wants to do in that movie is just like look at his own reflection in the bedroom window. He's not really kind of malicious. He's just doing the only thing that comes natural to him, which is just like murdering everyone in his path. But all the other movies would try to insert this goal, like, you know, oh, here's this blood relative that like he is just innately attracted, that he has to murder,
Yeah,
and stalking them, you know, or like they always tried to come up with some kind of motivation for Michael Myers because he's just, you know, he's a mindless, empty shell of a character.
Yeah, which is something that Green literally comments on the true crime captors in the 18 movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And these movies like go the other route and say, well, no, there really is nothing behind those eyes. It is just this force of destruction that is moving in a straight line, and you either get out of the way or you get killed. And that's how these movies have sort of treated Michael Myers. This movie's a little bit different in which it does kind of play into that idea of Michael Myers. It's like, as you said, like an infectious evil force. But I think it was very kind of specifically targeted. I don't think he's doing it to everyone in the town. I think it's mostly just like fear that is ruling the town. And in this movie, you see the fear has sort of, over the 4 years, has transformed into indignance, where now they view everyone that survived Michael Myers is basically being responsible for Michael Myers doing what he did in the first place. It sort of turned nasty against the people that like went up against him and still lived to tell the tale. And there is this kind of running theme throughout the movie that there are dark events that you can be subjected to that cause intense trauma in your life. And at that point, it's kind of like a doorway opens in yourself where you can either accept further darkness or you can reject it. And you kind of have to make that choice at that point. And you see that between the two characters, the dichotomy of Laurie and Corey, such that they rhyme in the movie where they make two totally different choices along the same matter and acknowledge that they both have that same darkness within them as a result of their encounters.
Yeah. I'm gonna give some of my thoughts, and I'm gonna give so that would end the non-spoiler review, and I'll give go around, let everybody give a rating for that, and end the non-spoiler, and then get into the spoiler review. If you're expecting, like, one thing I did like about Halloween Kills was, I mean, the kills were pretty good. I thought there were some pretty good kills in that movie, and it was kind of a fun in that sense. Here, you're not gonna get a lot of that. There's not gonna be a whole lot of killing, really, all that much in this. And if you're expecting a lot of Michael Myers, it's not going to be a whole lot of Michael Myers in this as well. which is another thing as well, and which I kind of appreciated the movie for a little bit, about trying to kind of go in this in a different direction there. And we'll kind of get into with spoiler review why there isn't that much Michael Myers in this. I think the stuff with Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie, you know what I mean, trying to move on with her life, and trying to find a new path. I thought that was good stuff, you know what I mean, and I thought that was kind of good stuff there. And she's just trying to move on, even though I think if you truly want to move on, you got to get the fuck out that town. Like, what the fuck are you still doing out that town? Like, you gotta get like you gotta pack up and get the fuck. Like, it's just too many bad memories. Like, you gotta go somewhere else. Like, you know what I mean? And you still trying to celebrate Halloween. It's like, no, like, get the fuck out. What are you doing?
You're making a pumpkin pie.
You know,
It's like the sheriff or whatever, the one dude with the hat for in the 2018 movie said, like, what are we gonna do? Cancel Halloween and just
I don't know. Maybe Halloween, during Halloween, Haddonfield booms. That's their biggest day of the year or something. That's when their economy is the best. I don't know. Yeah.
You could do the Footloose version where they banned Halloween in the town and all the kids are like, but we want Halloween.
Oh yeah, maybe that'll be the next Halloween movie. They do that, and then kids summon Michael Myers.
Brian Church, you call it Fall Festival, and then.
You do have a new character here, which we haven't really talked much about, where Corey, he comes in as part of like one of the new characters in this third movie here. I mean, I think it's a good opening with him and his character. Where he's babysitting, and it kind of goes a little bit of a different direction. I expected that to go, which was nice. And to see kind of, again, I think there's an interesting concept and idea there with that character. But I think it falls flat, and it's kind of messy in the way they do it. And then, him getting into a relationship with Laurie's granddaughter, Allison, I thought was also really didn't make a lot of sense and really wasn't all the way fleshed out very much well there as well. So, again, I understood what they were going for, but I think that was handled very messy and very kind of poor there. So, for me, I would give this, I'd give it a low stream it. For me, low streaming. Hunter, what about you?
God, I like a low streaming seems too high. Like, it really does. Like, this really upset me. Like, and I'm mad that it upset me because I wanted to like this, y'all. Like, I was sitting there like, come on, movie, like, just give me something. And we'll get into it with spoilers, but what they do with Corey, I called that shit. I even put, like, Nick will say, I was like, I have an idea of where they're going. I'm like, and if they do this thing, I'm going to be really pissed off. And I messaged our friend Marco, shout out Marco. I was like, dude, this is what I think they're doing. Are they doing this? And he wrote back, and I quote, I'm not saying a word, my lips are sealed. And I went, oh, god damn it, they're going to do this thing, aren't they? And it just... Yeah, I'm gonna be nice. I'm gonna be really nice because it's Jamie Lee Curtis's last time. But I'll give this a low stream it, but it's so close to being lower. It's so goddamn close to being lower. But it's on Peacock. You can watch it at home, so I'll say low stream it.
All right, Nick.
All right, so and something I admire about both this and to a much lesser extent Halloween Kills, they do take bigger creative swings than would be expected for a slasher movie. However, I do think the angle that they're going for with the character of Corey, it worked starting out, but then it kind of just devolves into, okay, we need to get Laurie and Michael in the same space again. And we need to find a way to just shoot him out. But I thought that the romance between Allison and Corey, starting out when it's first introduced, it's like a fun idea, but then it jumps a level of intimacy too fast for how long these two characters have known each other. And that doesn't really work. It's like you got this like CW Lifetime drama in my Halloween movie, which could work, but it ultimately doesn't serve any real purpose. because of the path that Corey's character goes on throughout this movie, because he's the main character of this. But and another thing, I liked the character. I liked the performance that Rowan Campbell gives. I think he's probably, all of the performances in this trilogy have been great, but he's stood out for me. But his character, I think the script kind of does him a disservice by having him go through these rapid changes really too quick, and it's a character that hasn't been set up before, which I think is probably the biggest issue. That being said, the actual confrontation between Laurie and Michael, it is intense and it is excellent. And I was standing up in my seat in the theater because I did see this last night and I rewatched it again today to get my notes ready. It is intense, and the finale is fairly satisfying for at least this iteration of Halloween. I'm not ready to give it like anything higher than a stream it though. It is on Peacock. It is an, I'll say, interesting watch. Is probably the biggest compliment I can give to this film and to the latter two parts of Gordon Green's trilogy.
Okay. Ashley?
First of all, I just want to say, how dare all of you? I'm gonna give this a high tune in. I think this movie is.
How much wine have you
I
had?
think it's really interesting. I understand why anyone bounces off of this movie and bounces off of Kills. If you don't dig these movies, I get it. It's they're purposely not giving you what you're expecting to get, or in some cases, and I would argue with the marketing of this movie, what they promise you're gonna get. Because everything in the marketing of this movie is basically like the last 30 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
It sells it as like the showdown between Michael and Laurie Strode, and most of the movie, not that. So if you're going in based off of that and you're disappointed with what you get, I almost get it. As someone who makes trailers, I also sympathize because you got to get butts and seats. So I'm of two minds about that. But I think this movie is doing some really interesting stuff. I think it is mostly successful, and I like the big swings that it takes. I kind of lament that there was an era of 80s horror filmmaking where you could have movies that could just go wander into completely different territory and experiment with them even within a franchise, and people would not lose their shit over it because we weren't kind of addicted to the the importance of the prestige of IP and how everything must meet the demands of my expectations for it. And so how dare you do this to my Batman, sort of thing that we get. And you would have that where like sometimes the movies would be less successful and less loved at the time, but they would they would eventually be rediscovered, and they would also be appreciated because there's like so many horror movies in the 80s. But we're not in that era now, and Michael Myers is as much an institution as anything else, so it rubs people a little bit wrong.
Michael Myers is basically on the Mount Rushmore of horror cinema. It's him, Jason, Freddy, Chucky, and Pinhead. Slasher movie. Right.
But to quote Walter Chaw on Twitter last night, he said, "I went in expecting to get Rise of the Skywalker. Instead, I got The Last Jedi." I think that's kind of an accurate perspective of this movie. And I think it's doing enough interesting stuff and telling a interesting story well that I really liked it. And if you go in knowing that you're essentially not getting the Michael Myers story from 2018 but different, I think that you might be pleasantly surprised.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna do a spoiler review now. So people haven't seen Halloween Ends, they can check out.
Right.
Spoilers.
Okay, so spoilers in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. okay, Hunter, how dare you compare this to The Rise of Skywalker? Because this movie didn't spend almost 2/3 of its runtime saying "fuck you" to our less well received previous movie. This movie takes everything set up and kills and runs with it, which is why I respect it more than Rise of Skywalker.
I agree.
You're right. It does run with
If it were
it.
the Rise of Skywalker, then it would have reverted and just tried to do the 2018 movie again.
You know, and you're right. It does run with it. It runs it right into the ground because the shit is dumb. And you know what? And look, y'all. For people who like this is one of those movies. I'm just gonna go. You like it, cool. And I'm just like, because I don't even want to talk about it. Like, so the movie opens up with Corey, you know, and this kid dies.
This shithead kid.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The kid, like, the movie is trying to set
I would have more sympathy if that kid wasn't such an asshole.
But that's the thing. Like, to Nick's point, everyone in this movie sucks. So when people start dying, I went, all right, like I'm supposed to care.
It's not even that they suck. It's just that they're rude. I mean, even that one radio DJ that gets killed towards the latter half of the movie, our one previous interaction with him was just, hey, y'all better get off my property before I fuck y'all up. Like, fuck, dude?
It's throughout the entire movie, he's basically stoking the fire.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely.
100%. He's basically a douchier. He's basically a douchier version of the crime podcasters in the 2018 movie.
Yeah,
he embodies the attitude that Haddonfield has taken, where it's basically the Michael Myers murders wouldn't have happened if only the survivors hadn't provoked him. And you could argue that a majority of the town holds those views because of that DJ. He's basically the Alex Jones of Haddonfield.
Yeah, and I gotta say that, like, I think the way they wrote Allison in particular was the thing that really just made me go, like, okay, movie, because Corey is giving off creeper vibes from, like, really early on. By the way, he has these, like, high school kids that are obsessed with him for no reason whatsoever. Like, they're just being pricks to him. Like, it's kind of that same problem I had with...
They're bullies.
They're bullies. That's their issue. And also, this guy unfairly so has a reputation of being a child murderer.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where it's like, this guy could be going in to get a stick of gum, and they're like, "Wooga booga," and it's like, "Oh my god, will you leave this fucker alone?" Like,
I mean, they look to him because they view him as like being worthy of being picked on.
Yeah,
even their dialogue was like, "Yeah, he fucking deserves it."
He's a pariah.
But the whole thing with Allison, though, like, I thought they had done a really good job for the most part of making her this character who's getting, like, more emotionally intelligent and stronger as the films go on. And I feel like they just undid so much of that work in this movie for this guy that she kind of doesn't really even have chemistry with at all. And even to this point where he's on this roof and he pretends like he's gonna jump off, I went, like, these are red flags, lady. Like as paranoid of a person as Lori is, I would think that someone jumping off a fucking roof would make you kind of go, maybe I shouldn't leave my whole life behind and run off with this fucking person. And I think it does a disservice to her. And that the more the film went on,
yet he's the person that she identifies with most in that town.
And
he's the only one who has gone through something similar to her.
True, but at the same time, when you get to the whole point where he stabs himself, which, you know, sure, and the Michael Myers mask is not a foot away from him, and he just immediately is like, how could you? And I'm like, bitch, take half a second and like
in intense in intense situations, you get tunnel vision.
Dude, I get that, but if they had not treated her completely differently for the two prior films, I would have been like, oh, okay, fair enough. But it feels like they just keep undercutting her, and I'm like, y'all, like, give me something. And
I watch very different movies.
No, and that's totally fine. And but when
That
it got to
Hunter. Yeah, I agree with you. I think the character that gets the biggest disservice is Alice. Because this relationship, while on paper I can see why it works, they have some nice moments together, like the entire scene where they're at the bar dancing to Dead Kennedys. I was like smiling along. Hey, yes, come on,
Hello
man,
there.
don't go on this dark path.
yeah, but but it just felt very like there's really no explanation either as to why like he kind of kills that old person, but kind of
I mean,
sorta like
that can be argued self-defense.
Yeah.
It's
it could
when
be.
he killed. Yeah, but there's also I remember this. I remember watching this. I remember watching this documentary about like the Swedish prison system. It was like one of those like prison systems over in somewhere in Europe, and they treat them basically like it's a 4-star hotel. We talked about it, Josh, when we reviewed the premiere of season 3 of Atlanta, where it's just like a nice place. The guards are nice. They treat you well. You have like your own private space. And one of the one of the guards that worked there, their quote was, "If you treat somebody like a monster, what do you expect from that?"
Hmm.
Which I think could be the fucking opus of this entire film with the character of Corey, because he is basically just a reflection of Laurie Strode. He's a what if of Laurie if she went down that dark path that other filmmakers have tried to explore, like what I was saying with Rob Zombie and his version of it.
Hmm. Yeah.
And ultimately, you want to see like both of these movies or both these characters, Allison and Corey. You kind of want to see them sort of recover from the
Mhm.
darkness that has chased them both for their entire lives as a result of the shit that they've experienced and have had lumped on them, unfairly so. And you kind of want to you want to see them get past that and get to a healthy place. And they both go through their different journeys to try to get there, and some are successful, some aren't. Obviously, Corey wasn't.
Yeah.
If you want me to really blow your mind, if this movie is basically it's Christine, is what it is. And this is intentional too. The last name of the lead character in Christine is Cunningham. He's Artie Cunningham,
Hmm.
and the character in Halloween Ends is Corey Cunningham.
Hmm.
And basically, Michael Myers is the car. He's the thing that Corey becomes infatuated with and basically corrupts him to the point where Corey becomes the antagonist of the
Mhm.
film, even though Christine is the monster. And everyone else are the people that are trying to pull Corey back from that darkness. But unfortunately, the hold of that darkness and corruption is too deep on him that
Hmm.
they can't pull him out of it, and it ultimately ends up threatening their lives as well.
Yeah.
And it's basically telling the same story as Christine, but it's doing it through the lens of Halloween. Um, and I think that's really interesting. And I think for the most part, they kind of pulled it off.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish I saw a lot of the stuff you saw there, Ashley. And I say what they kind of going with the Corey character, like, the evil really affecting him and impacting him, and how of being labeled this monster basically creates a monster. There's Nick was talking about. So one of the big things that happens is the bullies, that you saw, high school bullies messing with the guy, they end up in a tussle. He ends up going over the bridge, ends up into a sewer hole, and then going into the sewer. This is when he encounters Michael Myers. This is like 35 minutes into the movie that you first see Michael Myers, and then he doesn't come back until 20 more minutes later, until when he goes back. But in some way, Michael Myers, like when he gets a hold of Corey, like he almost like transfers his evil onto him in a way.
It, it's
Uh, um,
it, it's kind of like what Ashley was talking about, how Michael Myers is a force of nature, and the entire like plot of Kills revolves around him going back to his childhood home and looking back into that reflection of evil.
yeah, Yeah, which
And I think he sees that in Corey.
which I kind of picked up, which they did experiment with, if I remember correctly. They kind of did that in The Curse of Michael Myers, I believe, where it was like the little girl at the end and she killed him, and then you had Donald Pleasance who was screaming at the bottom of the stairs and stuff like that. And with this movie,
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did that in Curse of Michael Myers, and they did it, I think, clunkily in Rob Zombie's Halloween
but
2.
it's also tied to the whole kind of like bloodline where it's like it's in your blood that you're going to be a killer too because you're related to Michael Myers. And I've never really cared for the evil bloodline sort of concept. The idea that
And I've never cared for Rob Zombie's filmography.
the much more ambiguous idea that evil is something that is capable within all of us, and all of us are capable of going to that dark place. And how do we repel it? I think it's infinitely more interesting.
yeah. I think that is way more interesting there. And then I think the stuff with with Corey and kind of going down that path, and he kind of transferred this evil and kind of starts to become the new Michael Myers. He takes Michael Myers' mask from him, and then there's even a point where him and Michael Myers become like buddies, and they start killing together and everything like that. Because you can see Michael Myers is kind of in a very weakened state, you know what I mean? And everything like that.
I mean, he only got shot like 8 times, had his hand blown off. Almost got burned alive.
Well, you also see that
Hit in the head with bricks like 3 or 4 times. Got jumped, stabbed multiple times, and is clearly not going to a hospital.
I mean, he had 4 years to recover, but
the more he kills,
He's also in his he's also at the very least in 2018 in his late 60s.
Yeah. So you kind of have that here there of kind of that situation of him becoming Corey is going to become the new Michael Myers, which I thought was kind of bold to do that in a way, but then they were like, well, of course you can't have a Halloween movie and not have Michael Myers a part of this and be a part of it, especially during the end, which is selling it on the climax of Laurie versus Michael and everything like that. The relationship between Corey and Allison, like Hunter was talking about, just doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. I mean, even when Laurie, so she tries to set up a meet cute with her granddaughter, and then him. I don't really know what instantly attracts her. I mean, he's a good-looking guy, so I guess there is that. But the fact that she would be willing to,
it's clear. I mean, they could have implied that she's kind of been struggling dating a little bit. So at this point, she just wants some dick.
I mean.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, but I don't know exactly what instantly, so much what she asks him on a date and they go out, and there's an instant infatuation. I don't know, maybe it's the evil seduced her. I don't know, maybe you can say that. I guess she got a whiff of the evil. I don't know, but so you kind of have that. And they it's almost like it turns into a little bit of like a natural born killers type thing between the two of them. I thought it was going to be where her and him were going to both be the killers. Like she's going to be another Michael Myers too, or something like that. But that doesn't happen. And like Hunter said, he's giving off clear vibes that there's something wrong with this dude. So I don't know why she couldn't pick up on that. But again,
it doesn't help that like on their second date, he's like, I killed somebody. And then they go to the crime scene, and then the next scene they're like making out and getting ready to clap cheeks.
And if that's not there, I'm not as harsh on it. But he just drops that like, oh man, I got a surfboard yesterday. And it's like, okay, like you should probably not be hanging out with this person. And So
I just thought that was just very strange and everything. So I thought I mean like they were going to probably turn into both the killers, but that didn't happen. And for her to be so angry at Laurie, for Laurie says like, I don't really trust this guy, and he seems weird, and for her to explode like that, which seems to, if we so far it's been a good relationship. Allison and Lori has been together and it seems pretty good. But she said, she yelled at her and said she don't want to be trapped in her feelings and trauma. It's like, I don't know. It seems like she's trying to move on. I think what doesn't help is that you're constantly reminded because you're in this fucking town. You got to leave this fucking town because everybody's reminding you about this event and won't let you move on from it. So yeah, maybe if you pack up and leave somewhere else, maybe that would help tremendously. So yeah, I mean, so that was kind of my kind of big kind of issues there with that whole relationship there, and then the stuff they did with Corey, I thought was I mean, I thought it was a little bold where you're going, but I just thought that you kind of fumbled the bag there. Hunter, what about for you?
Yeah, I think if you set up Corey in the 2018, and you don't even need to give him a big role, but I think if you
maybe have him like run into passing in the hallway in 20.
Yeah, but this movie I need to be another like a half hour longer to flesh out some of this shit, or you need to introduce him from the 2018 version because there's too much ground they're trying to cover in under 2 hours, and it's just like even when he goes back home when his mom was like how dare you leave me, and she like slaps him and then like kisses him like really uncomfortably. Like I was like, oh, am I watching am I watching the Northman again? That's weird. And like so, but it's rushing through this shit where I just went, okay, can we slow down? Like, can we please develop some of this shit? And yeah, Nick kind of touched on it. Just everyone who gets killed, I went, yeah, I don't feel bad for you. Like when the DJ got killed, I was like, yeah, should you fucked around and found out. This is what you get.
No, when those fucking also how much of a pussy you gonna be to get picked on by a marching band?
I mean, true.
That I absolutely loved is because
it's not typical bullies that you see, which I think is nice.
That, but it's 2022, and this movie I think rightfully acknowledges that the school bullies that come back from a sporting event and torture someone are not actually the jocks; it's the nerds. It's the fucking marching band nerds. Because we sort of acknowledge that nerds are the most damaging people in today's culture.
That is very true.
Yeah. That is kind of true.
Yeah.
I think that was purposely done so.
Yeah. No, and that is something I will definitely give you, like, because they're just relentless. By the way, a very good lesson, kids. If you hang out with pieces of shit, you get piece of shit prizes. And I was sitting there, and there's this. I think it's Margot. It was like
Margot's like the one girl that like kind of sympathetic towards Corey and is like, hey, leave the guy alone, but is also just like not doing shit and just standing by.
Yeah, like
hey, she didn't get blowtorched in the face.
I mean, true. It is kind of funny though. Like their deaths were the ones I was laughing at and cheering the most. I was like, good, fuck these kids up because they're little by the way, if you're one of those people like, oh, kids of the future, they're so great. Kids are pretty terrible, and this movie actually shows that these little fuckers deserved everything they got. And I was like, yeah, good. Even me being black, I saw Stacy get killed. I'm like, yeah, girl, this is exactly what your nappy-headed ass deserves. Like,
the one death I felt bad about was Corey's stepdad.
Yeah,
just mechanic that was just trying to help. Yeah, I legitimately felt bad. Yeah, and I'm kind of glad that Corey didn't kill him.
Yeah, and you're kind of like, oh shit.
Look at the number of people in this movie that were murdered by Michael Myers that were not initiated by Corey. Not a lot.
Yeah.
All the kids were killed by Corey. Him
Mm-hmm.
chasing that girl and the doctor on behalf of Allison, even though Michael Myers finishes the job, Corey started that.
Yeah.
You know, everything in the junkyard, that was Corey. But Michael Myers finished it, you know? So it's like the only person that Michael Myers legitimately goes after is Laurie.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those things though, like you get what you want at the very end. You get the big title fight and you know, that actually does kick all sorts of ass. I have a like a somewhat irrational fear of garbage disposals just randomly going off on like
Yeah.
conditions and shit.
I
So
think
when
everyone does. I think that's universal.
so when I saw that shit, I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, stop that right now. I'm like, no,
Ah.
like I was.
Yeah, my theater was reacting hard to that, and you guys hear that. Ah!
Yeah, I was very much like, okay, like let's please not. So, the title fight does deliver like as you get to the end of the film, and I think that the concepts here could be well executed. Like I'm not trying to say that they're not, but it's just there's just not enough runtime. There's not enough setup, and it's just it's frustrating because there's a world where this totally works for me, and it just falls short, and it's just I wanted to like this, goddammit, and I just couldn't. So yeah.
Any final thoughts all around? Any final word on Halloween Ends? Anything?
Just to reiterate
No.
what I said before, I think everyone should watch it, and I think you should go into it with a little bit of like foreknowledge that like it's not just going to be the 2018 movie, but different.
Mhm.
And as long as you accept that and you're okay with that, I think you might be kind of surprised by what you find here, and I think you might enjoy it, a whole lot more than if you set your expectations in one place, and then the movie is just not interested in meeting them.
Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm coming out with this, because I think if you come into this expecting just a repeat of 2018 film, you're gonna get disappointed, just like you were with Kills.
No. And for David Gordon, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say this is like when I was 5 and I would open up a Christmas present, it would be like socks instead of like a new Sega game. I'm just like, well, I expected something better, and
I mean, just like when you're an adult, I mean, clothes or socks as a Christmas gift is kind of awesome.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
well,
then
now
that
it is.
happened, time passed, and you go, "Wow, I could really use some socks."
Yeah, I
should have
mean,
appreciated those socks.
yeah, I mean, now I think
appreciate
socks.
those socks a lot more now with the benefit of hindsight.
Yeah, like now I love socks because like I actually like shopping for
So
socks,
give it
but
10 years and you'll love Halloween Ends.
I would but it's I would say everyone should watch this because you should form your own opinion on this. I know some people who are actually really digging this. I know a lot of people in my camp who are just like, man, I just don't like this at all. But I feel like horror is one of those genres where it's such a rubber band where you have people who can appreciate something like, Freddy versus Jason, but you have some people who like shit that's more like
it's me. It's me. I'm
okay,
people.
like
Yes.
and so horror is very diverse in that way. So if this works for you, cool, like awesome. I'm happy you got what you wanted. I didn't really know what I wanted. I didn't want this, so
Yeah.
I think the kills, I know we mentioned it, but the kill of the DJ is fucking brutal. Like that was the one. I was like, God damn!
It's like a guy gets his jaw blowtorched off, and it's still less brutal than what Corey does to this DJ.
Like that actually surprised me, and I actually have to give the movie credit for that because I was like, oh fuck, okay, but it's one of those movies that's gonna be divisive. I'm happy Jamie Lee Curtis got to go out on her terms at least, and she does in the film like a badass. So I will say that at least, that tracks, and I was happy for her. But yeah, it's something you should see, but definitely, I won't say temper your expectations, but maybe don't expect the movie that you think you're gonna get and watch it like that.
Yeah, and David Gordon Green with this trilogy. I mean, hey, this is his last movie of this trilogy so far that we know of, and they kill Michael Myers. They go like he's dead. He's dead. I mean, they take
they slice his throat. They slice him the wrist long ways to make sure of it. They parade his corpse around town, and then they shove him in a fucking car crusher just for good measure.
Yeah, they go to the scrapyard.
Hamburger by the end.
Yeah, I mean, you see the body too get all crushed like a watermelon, all explode and shit. So you see it. So it's like for us,
Yeah.
we've
Yeah,
killed Michael Myers.
no ifs, ands, or buts. Yeah, no ifs, ands, or buts. They killed the fuck out of this version of Michael Myers.
Yeah, so for them, they killed their Michael Myers. They're good. They're like, yeah, we're done. You know, like they. So
Until
that,
that black channel gets lit.
yeah,
Bring his ass.
yeah. So that was Halloween Ends.